Hey folks, John Kelly, welcome back. Law enforcement life coach with your Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Hey guys, I have a subject matter expert on all things relationship and trauma. And you'd say relationship and trauma, like aren't those both like two extreme ends of the spectrum? But a lot of our trauma comes from our lack of being able to create healthy relationships. So like it's all one and the same. And I'm so excited to sit down with Laurel Wiers. She authored a book, Betrayed Not Broken. And I start reading the title and I'm like, I want to punch Laurel right in the mouth. From discovery to decision making, your journey through infidelity. And I'm like, where was she back in 2005? Because she's figured some things out. She's paying it forward, and she's a therapist, a clinician. She has a passion for helping people that transcends occupation. She's just out there making this place a better place for all of us. And so, without further ado, please help me in welcoming Laurel to the Law Enforcement Life Coach, Sometimes Hero Need Help podcast. Laurel, great to see you.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, I always try to connect with people that add value. And so like I was we had some brief exchanges on LinkedIn, and I'm like, this woman is like so dialed into the needs of and obviously this is a first responder heavy podcast. And a lot of times, you know, we start like segregating ourselves like, well, we can only talk with it's the issues that plague first responders are the issues that plague everybody.
Yes.
We're not that unique, right? We're not that unique. We like to think we are sometimes. But at the end of the day, the problems that we have um, are very relatable. And you have been in this space. How long have you been in this therapy, helping people space? Give us a little background, if you would.
Sure. So I have been a therapist for 24 years this year.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
thank you. And about 10 years ago is when I wrote the book on infidelity. And that came out of probably the 5 years before that, that I was just working with it so much. And I felt that there was such a need to have a resource for people that wouldn't go to therapy. So many people
Okay.
won't come in. So I was like, all right, if they're not going to get the help I can give them, I can at least have something out there. So that was, quite a few years into my practice. But then the last 7 years, I've really started to do a lot of work with trauma. So it was interesting. I was like everybody else. You start out, you're a therapist, you don't really have a specialty, you just kind of go along. And then your clients really create for you where you decide to go based on what's happening in your caseload. And so I feel like I've had 3 seasons, kind of the basic season. Then I had my infidelity season that I worked with that for a really long time, good,
Sure.
bad, and ugly. And
Right.
now I'm in my trauma season, which is super exciting. And the infidelity and trauma really have worked together because so much of what happens with the infidelity, there's that trauma piece that I have to work with also. So
Right.
yeah, for the 24 years, that's kind of been my journey.
Wow. It's great that you've evolved with it. I think some people they go like, all right, well, this is they pigeonhole themselves. They go, I am gonna be this therapist. I'm gonna be, and I think that the fact that you have adapted to the needs of your clients, I think, that's an awesome thing. Going back to this can't be a 6 hour podcast. I wish it could, because I'm going to sneak in a free counseling session here if I can. Going back to the book, and I thought it was, we had talked before we had officially launched. Um, you wrote this book really, uh, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were getting frustrated with your interactions with some of your clients, correct? Tell
Yes.
us about that.
So what would happen is I would end up typically with the female in my office. What's interesting now is I have females, but they're on the other side of it. They are the betrayers now. But I really started out,
Equal opportunity, Laurel.
you got it. It sure
We're
is.
not cheating on our spouses with trees, right? There's another sex involved here. Okay.
I like that. Yes.
Oh, nice.
So now, while I'm heavier on that end of it, I did start out with the women who had been betrayed. But my frustration came out of as they would come into my office, I kept hearing this theme that just made my skin crawl. And it was that it was their fault. They missed the cues. They weren't having enough sex. They weren't pretty enough. They had gained too much weight after having the kids. And yeah, that's where we started. And so I spent so much time kind of educating about it takes two. And yes, while we have to have ownership, we have to look beyond that. But it just was so redundant that that frustration is really what powered me through writing the book, because I wanted to have something to give to people so that they could know, and in the privacy of their own home too, right? Some people just won't allow themselves to go to therapy and be vulnerable. So I thought if I can give them the tools and they can hear my message without coming in here, then that's what I'm going to do.
Well, that's what you did, right? Because, I picked up your book and I went through it and I was just like, hmm. And I told you, I said, let me see what Laurel's all about here. Let me see if what she's proposing we do here. And it all made really great sense to me. And I I was the betrayer, right? So I was it made sense because it's been, I think I told you, since 2005. So my Nicole and I, we have gone through all these stages, and
Mhm.
when you talk about ownership, that's one thing that I think people, she was able to take ownership just because we were in a relationship together.
Mhm.
It wasn't assessing blame. It
Mhm.
was, if we're in a relationship together,
Mhm.
I bear some responsibility for the health of it.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be 50-50. It doesn't have to be, I was the one who stepped out, but she's such a strong woman. She reflected like, well, were there things that I could have done? Could I
Mhm.
have communicated differently? Could I have, like, what was going on in my life that might have contributed to this unhealthy environment that, and there were a million ways I could have handled the relationship. I chose a very easy,
Mhm.
immediate, self-gratifying road. Um, but I thought that, that was key. And you talk about, hey, everybody owns a piece of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, because really, if you think about it, when you're in that relationship and if your partner's detaching, was there somewhere along the way that you missed that, right? Or didn't ask that question? And again, not that you have to own all of it, but it's so important. She sounds so healthy and so lovely, your
She
wife,
is,
by the
I,
way.
I'm telling you, I think I told you, people want her to speak to this, but she's not that girl. She's just like, listen, um, I did what I did. I had my reasons, and but the process that she used, like, I had a front row seat for it.
Mhm.
And like, she never kicked me out, which
Wow.
was, it didn't dawn on me till later why she didn't. But, this, when you have to live with the consequences of your actions,
Oh, that's almost harder, right? Having to
oh, it's
face that
brutal. It
person
would have been
every day.
easier if she would have allowed me. I actually had an apartment lined up down the street. And I left and lived at that apartment, I think it would have been over.
Yes.
But the fact, she was like, I'm not kicking you out.
Mhm.
These are decisions you need to make, whether you want to be here or not. I was like, oh, oof, here we go. Right. And so, the bad of that was, I saw her curled in the fetal position every day sobbing.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, you can't walk away from that. You
Mhm.
can't sugarcoat that. You can't minimize that.
Mhm.
So I think there was, I think, Laurel, if people only knew the damage that they inflict
Mhm.
on people that they purport to love. The thought, I listen, when I go out and listen, I don't even put myself in a position to say hello to you. I just why? No, because it's just it's you know, friends have. I was on a motorcycle unit back in the day, and with the motorcycle and the pants and the boots and all the bullshit, and cops notoriously have a bad reputation for being very flirtatious and blah blah blah. Um, I would have my buddies would tell women that I was gay.
Really?
Absolutely, I'm gay. Pleasure meeting you. Love your outfit. Have a nice day. Out no, not having the chit chat. I'm not being cute. I'm not commenting on how great you look today in the gym. I'm done. No, because why? Why to see and go down that road again?
Mhm.
Um, I don't think people can appreciate the pain that they cause by their avoidance actually causes so much more pain.
Right, absolutely. And part of it is really just sitting with that person in their pain, right? That's part of that healing process is I see in my clients so often this part of the person, if they don't sit with them in their pain and they don't acknowledge it for them, it leaves the person who's been hurt to feel like they have to constantly remind that person of what's happened, right? Because, for example, you have a normal day and you're smiling and you're laughing, you feel like the person who hurt you thinks that you're over it now.
Mm,
So there's such import in that person who has hurt them, sitting with them through that pain and continuing to acknowledge it through the process so they can heal and that they can get better. So yeah,
right.
to walk away, you would have missed that whole opportunity of just coming in and saying the hardest thing that I even talk about in the book is I know I'm sorry that I hurt you, and just stopping right there, letting that person say, right, all the things they need to say, or just giving them that hug and saying, yeah, I can take this because I created this and I can be here with you through it.
That just explained why I stayed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like that makes sense to me now. I mean, it was because, like, all right, this is a situation you created.
Mhm.
Deal with it.
Exactly.
You didn't deal with it before when you should have by
Mhm.
sitting down and having tough conversations.
Mhm.
I would have rather have had those conversations
Mhm. Yes.
prior
And
to the infidelity, right?
oh,
Why the hell don't? Because they weren't, in hindsight, they weren't overly difficult.
no, when I was reading your book, I noticed that the things that you said you didn't talk about, how you
Right.
just wanted everything to be okay, so you would just stuff it. But it's that stuffing, oh, right? Like rather than just saying the thing,
Yeah.
it would have been so much easier, but you couldn't find it within you to cause any disruption. It seemed like
No.
your job had so much disruption that you just needed there to be peace at home. And so you just took the path of least resistance, which
Yeah.
created really a problem in the end. But
Yeah. It's just, and I think that is so typical
mhm,
of first responders.
yes,
It's
yeah.
not that we intentionally set out down this path,
Mhm.
but when we don't want conflict at home, we never realize that the way not to have conflict is to talk. The way, if you want conflict, don't say anything because eventually conflict will come and find you.
Absolutely. It's better to put out the little fires than the huge explosion.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And we've got it backwards. And we wonder why we're going on, our second and third divorce, or people are having all these issues maintaining healthy relationships, not only with the spouse, but
Right.
just in general, the way we interact with other human beings.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Especially now, right? It's
so
so
much to learn, right, Laurel?
yes. Well, just to even to talk and to listen, but to be heard. I think that's why so many people don't talk. I talk all the time about how people need therapy now more than ever because nobody's listening. When do you ever engage in a conversation with someone and you can say, I know that that person is so interested in what I'm saying right now and they're listening to my every word? It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
right? We're always so ahead of what am I going to say next? What is my goal for this conversation? And that's where that breakdown comes from. We just can't have that vulnerable connection of, I'm here with you and I want to attend to what you're saying because you're all that matters right now.
Yeah. That's it sounds so simple when you say it that way, but incorporating that, it's
Mhm.
almost like, you know how, I got my phone, I got everything scheduled today, right? I had a million things to do. It's almost like it's something that we should schedule
Oh,
in a
yeah.
way, right? I mean, am I off the mark on that or no?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, my clients have to schedule everything, even sex. We have sex scheduled in them because people won't do it if they don't schedule it. So yeah, I have my clients, one of the first things I do when I do couples therapy is I say, "Tell me the last time you went on a date." The answers are horrible. People
Oh,
don't date, right? And then that ties into all that looking nice for your partner, reminding them of why they were attracted to you in the
right,
first place, you know? And then I have to give rules about now when you go on your date, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about this, right? Reconnecting with each other. Sometimes I give them printouts of this is what you're going to talk about when you go to dinner tonight so you can
right,
actually connect with each other again. But yeah, put scheduling time. I will have my clients, we have some of the tasks that we give them is both you come home, the phone's going to basket from 7 to 8 o'clock at night. Nobody
right.
touches them, no one answers anything. And it's amazing to see within a couple weeks what a couple is like when they come back, when they start using these things that they schedule connectedness again, because that's what we're missing. Our faces are down looking at the blue screen all the time.
Yeah, I actually brought that up in a class I was teaching about, throw the effing phone,
Mhm.
you know, in the other room. And a argument erupted in the class about the phone. So I let it go on, and then people are, "Ah, nobody's telling me what to do with my phone." I'm like, so I let it go. I go, all right, are we done? I go, you think this is a fucking problem? This guy almost stroked out over here because all I did was mention the idea that he should probably spend more time connecting with his wife and kid
Mhm.
than being on that phone. I go, it's taken over our lives and it's not for the better. And everybody was like, holy shit, like this. It happened like I go, we shouldn't, if we cared that much about each other than the stupid phone, we wouldn't have these problems.
Oh my goodness. It's something I did not have to talk to people about when I first became a therapist, right? I
Right.
mean, 24 years ago, this was not a problem. It was the
Right.
phone was on the wall and maybe someone had a
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. The long cord, right? The stupid long cord that you almost hung yourself with.
Totally, but even that was better because
Right.
that was real connection. Someone was actually talking to one person at a time, giving them their attention. But yeah,
Right.
it's been a whole thing, even as a therapist, that's evolved. How do we address technology? And it is 80% of my couples, that is one of the huge things, which is that, after dinner, everyone sits on their phones, they're not connecting. And then the wife goes to bed, the husband goes to bed, and then we just start, Groundhog Day all over again. Yeah. One of the biggest things that could help couples is that basket rule. Put it in the basket,
Yeah.
2 hours off, and actually talk to each other.
That's huge. One thing and this is, I'll share with you. So Nicole and I, like, super sexually active, like it's all good. Cause like, she's like, it's so funny. She's like, if that situation's never gonna be a focal point of why you're not here. Like, listen, so she's very aware. She's like, and so when we're together, it's great. But I also, it sounds weird. There are times when I go to her, I go, I've had a really crazy, I just want to connect and
Mhm.
just lay there
Yep.
and just, it sounds like some stupid bullshit romance novel, but like I just want to like scratch her forehead, have her lay on my chest, and just feel her breathing,
Right.
and like that. Uh, that puts me in such a
Mhm.
great headspace.
Right.
Like it's like, yeah, right. It's like you feel you like, people say, "Oh, you feel me," like
Mhm.
literally, you feel me, like, and we'll have, maybe we won't even say two or three words to each other in that time, but
Mhm.
it's just
right. Just feeling her breathing, feeling her there.
Yeah.
What's so good is that you know how to ask for it, because that's what people don't do. All the time, couples say, "Well, they know me. They know that's what I want," right? How does he not know? How does she not know? And I'm always saying they are not mind readers. They did not get the manual. When you said I do, you didn't walk back down the aisle with it. This is how you make John happy manual, right?
No.
But that to ask for what you need, if people just took that one lesson, just be super clear and say what you need, relationships would be so different. One of the big things I tell my couples is, what do you need? Tell him what you need. Ask him what he needs from you. Ask what she needs from you. Those three words, I need blank. Huge.
Right. It's funny. So I discovered Gary Chapman's those love languages, and I joke when I put my class on. I go, "When do we find out about Gary Chapman? When we're in marriage counseling. We find out after we've crashed and burned." I said, "But when you look at it,
Mhm.
it just makes perfect sense, right? Like she would tell me all the time how much she loved me, fucking in one ear and out the other.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't until I finally could knew what I needed from her,
Right.
right? I said, I need you to touch me. I need you to put your hand on my shoulder when we're out. I need you to hold my hand. And,
Mhm.
you know, I become Superman when that happens. You know,
Right. Oh,
for
sure.
her, for her, it was doing, acts of kindness, me doing little bullshit chores around the house. So when she walked in the door, she didn't have to. And I was like, gee, I walked on water when I did that, you know? And it's just like so simple, but you don't ask.
You don't know. And nobody knows about that. I'm so glad you talk about that when you work with people, because again, that's one of those foundational things that I talk to every couple about. And what people don't realize often is if you know nothing about Gary Chapman, know nothing about the five love languages, I say, watch how your partner is loving you. Watch what they do to make you feel good, because that's what they need, right? We love people in the way that we receive love. So I give gifts because I love gifts, and my husband's not. And I always
Right.
tell people that too. The interesting thing about the yin yang of relationships is whatever you are, your partner is not. So it is so truly an act of love to love our partners in the way they need it, because we're having to go outside of ourselves and do the thing that comes the least naturally to us to meet their need. And that's beautiful because that's what love is.
Right. It's finding something bigger than you.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome. Listen, I could spend another hour just talking about relationships and this book. I'm gonna obviously in the show notes, I'm gonna put links to purchase the book and all your information. But for my listeners, man, if you're dancing out there in the periphery and you haven't figured some things out yet and you're struggling and your heart's heavy, Betrayed Not Broken by Laurel Wiers. It'll give you some clarity. It'll make you realize that you're not crazy and that it'll give you some hope and some direction. And that's really when you're in that place, that's all you're really asking for is a little bit of hope and direction. And this book delivers on that. I thought it was just so well done. And I can't say enough great things about my next question is when are you writing a book on trauma? Because what ends up happening is when we screw up our relationships to the point that some of us had, there's fallout, there's damage. And I not to I promise I'm gonna break away from relationships. But one thing that I didn't share in the book because it didn't happen yet probably 6 months ago, Laurel, I was sitting out back, have fireplace, fire pit out by the water, and about once a week, my daughter and I will go out there, and I'll get a raging fire going, and we'll just chill, no phones, and we just kinda let the fire mesmerize us, and we talk. And
Mm.
so she asked me about the affair.
Oh, wow.
She's 25 now. That happened, in
Mhm.
2005, so she was,
A little.
old enough to know that something was wrong, but not old enough really to dial in.
Mhm.
And so I told her, she asked me, and I, again, without doing a deep dive,
Right.
um, and I said, when I got done telling her about it. She said, I told her your mother and I went to counseling, and you know, your dad was pretty messed up, and there were a lot of things that I needed to fix in me. And she said, "Did you ever think that I might need counseling?"
Wow.
Laurel, broke my heart. It absolutely, because like you conduct, you do you, and you think it all the shit is just happening in a vacuum and that nobody else is suffering. You think you're the only one that's suffering. And
Right.
I think if people would have realized
Mhm.
that their actions have huge,
Mhm.
devastating consequences
Oh, yeah.
to kids,
Mhm.
you would rethink that whole thing again, right? Because the last thing in the world I ever would want to do is hurt my daughter,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, but that's never the mindset when it happens though, right?
No,
Nobody wakes up and says, "Gee, I think I
no.
wanna have an affair today. I think that that's a really good solution to my
Yeah,
problem." It doesn't. It never happens that way, and it's so hard for people to understand. It really is typically just a couple things that just happened at just the right time with something going
that
on, and
perfect storm you talk about.
totally. And then what I think people don't understand is it's like an addiction. So, right, if you think about it, I use that imagery a lot with people, is that being with that person becomes your high. And then you get to the point that you say, even though I know this is bad for my family, I can't not do it. I can't not meet with them. So, yeah, it's so powerful how you get that same dopamine hit from the infidelity that you do from drugs.
That's the tie-in right now. That's what's going to walk us into trauma because um that sense of excitement, it's addicting.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so, and if you have an addictive personality, if you're
Mhm.
drawn to that,
Yes.
that just feeds. And
Mm,
it's almost like it, you throw all prefrontal cortex, it gets thrown completely out the window.
you got it.
Doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Because that need, you just connected a couple more dots for me.
Oh, good.
The just the intensity of that was
Yeah.
a drug,
Mhm.
was an
Absolutely.
absolute drug.
Yeah. And that's the language and imagery I have to use with my women and or men that are now in the affairs, right? Because so much of it is the same work. And I say to them, let's just remove the face and let's make this about the addiction. Right? So it's the same concept. Avoid the places, avoid the triggers, avoid the cravings, right? Don't feed it,
Right.
walk away.
Become a homosexual.
Right.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
all of those things. Yeah, but it's
Right.
that same level of intensity. And I find when I tell people that, start looking at it like that, or even look at what your partner's behavior was during that affair like that, it does change the way that you look at it. And in some senses, it simplifies what needs to be done to break free from it.
If we look at that draw and we treat it as like a drug, right? Um, Not a great segue into trauma, but before we do that, sex addictions, right? That's a real thing. I always thought that I always wanted to call bullshit because it always seems like the sex addiction comes out after you've been caught.
Mm,
You don't,
mhm.
I don't know of anybody who admits to having a sex addiction that hasn't been caught
Do
in an affair or in a situation that's compromising. So, eh, does that make sense? I mean,
Yes, that's typically when they're in my office and we're dealing with sex addiction. Yes, it's that the person they're with has found out
it
something.
seems like a convenient. It seems like a convenient diagnosis for me just wanting, yeah, I
Right.
got caught. But you know what?
It's real.
I'm an addict. I'm an
Yeah.
addict.
And it's so real. And what's so interesting is you can trace those back to, right? They got that hit at 12, 13 years old for the sex addiction, right? And it was
I
this
so what you're telling me, Laurel, is I went about this the wrong way. I should have gone the addiction route with my defense. I should because
there
I
you
should,
go.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that would have worked. Yeah, I would have got hit in the head with a frying pan.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's a real thing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's something that unfortunately you got people like me that want to minimalize that and kind of dismiss it as a convenient.
Right.
it seems like, because it sounds like if, but all the same factors are in play.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's what I say. When we deal with addiction in my office, I always will I change out. I'm like, let's stop calling it for this because I know you're struggling with this, right? It's
Right.
just addiction. It's the same as anything else. We're working with it the same way. Because then there's that shame component with so much of the sexual stuff. It's like that, it makes it hard for people to talk about it because sexual addiction, for some reason, is a more shameful thing than alcohol addiction for a lot of people. The
Yeah, I
secret,
guess there's a hierarchy, right?
yeah,
Somewhere along the way, society has said, if you're an alcoholic, you're not as bad as a heroin addict, and you're not, but you're better than a sexaholic, and you're not, we got this, ridiculous scale of what's acceptable and what's not, and
exactly.
um, that's kind of crazy. Well,
But
I
this,
think that's great that you would treat it like, just like, let's just, it's an addiction, and
exactly.
and universally, the way we address addiction is the same, regardless of whatever it is.
Right, exactly.
That's
And
more, that was a question, right? I mean, am I right?
yes, I did for the most part,
Right.
yes. But
Okay.
the segue with the trauma piece is
Yes.
many addictions are born out of the numbing from the trauma.
Okay.
Right? I mean, sometimes, right, you find something, there's been something in your life, you're looking for some way to feel better about it, and then you start using or whatever it is that you're doing to make yourself feel better. And then what happens is we get older and we focus on the addiction, but we've never gone back to look at the trauma that the addiction served the purpose of helping you deal with in the first place.
That, like, you just, I don't think you oversimplified it, but you just, again, you connected a couple dots. So
Mhm.
much of the things that much of the things that we go through, and the problems that manifest themselves as adults, they have
Mhm.
a beginning, or they're rooted in things that have happened much earlier in our lives.
Exactly. Mhm. Shame, right? The pain, abandonment, any of those things. And you don't even realize it usually when the addictions start that that's what you're trying to run so far away from.
So as you segued into helping your clients with infidelity, and now you're really, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but more focused. You still have client. You're never going to stop having clients
Yeah.
um with infidelity issues and marriage issues, because it I don't, it doesn't have to, I don't want to try to, I don't want to put you out of business, Laurel, but god damn, we make it so much harder than it has to be.
Right.
I
And
mean, it's like, we just, I'm 56, and I just started figuring out how to be a better husband and father. So I can understand why people in your profession are so necessary and thrive, because you can hopefully give people those skill sets and lessons learned
right.
when they're in their 30s, and not when they're in their 50s, and they can have 20 years of love and
Mhm.
not 20 years of shame.
Totally. Well, I say all the time, I wish that part of high school graduation was that you had to learn some of this stuff, right? Learn about the love languages, learn about what it looks like to be triggered and have trauma, learn what a healthy relationship looks like. So if we could just get some exposure to that, even wouldn't that change the way that we go forward?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, because like, knowledge is power, and I didn't know about any of this stuff, quite honestly, until it was too late, until all the damage had been done.
Mm,
And if you could have just been a little more educated, maybe, and learned some proper skill sets and proper healthy coping mechanisms,
mhm.
you I always say, like, your trauma shapes you. That's my take on it. It makes you who you are, if you can figure it out. Like,
Right.
it's not a good thing. And if you can figure some things out and be stronger for it, that's great. But tell me, a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people
They don't
aren't
really
aren't figuring it out.
No, because I think most people start to feel like the way that they've learned to cope, behave, and interact because of their trauma, they think it's their personality. This is just who I am. So much so that even they don't want to get rid of it sometimes. I have had a lot of cases where we can connect the dots and say, you're acting this way because of this. We have this trigger, we have this trauma, this image, these things that we need to pull out because they're shaping your behavior and how you react. And people will say, no, I'm super aware of my surroundings and what goes on because of this. I don't want to get rid of it. I think I'm a better police officer. I'm a better fireman. I'm a better partner because I'm aware of all these things because of what happened to me. And I hear that and I just think, no, that's not
No,
true.
no, yeah. So they're making a decision to stay stuck
Yes.
in light of all the evidence and data that you've shown them that says this is actually why you're messed up. This is what's hurting you.
Right. Exactly. The evil that I know is more comfortable than what I may not.
That's so let's talk trauma. You know, I I think it's a little, so I'm going to say some things and please like smack me around a little bit if I'm completely off base. But I've got some theories, right? Here I go with my theories. I'm the guy that's with a little bit of knowledge that's really dangerous.
Okay.
And
Fun.
I know that. I know I don't know, Laurel. But this is what I do know. I've been exposed, like not unlike a million people a day, to true horror.
Mhm.
Um, that's the job I signed up for.
Yes.
But somebody's got to do it. I'm going to do it. 700,000 other law enforcement officers in the country said, I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
So if we know we're going to see some really horrible things and have to do some really horrible things, and if we know that, as far as critical incidents and trauma, the average person on the street is exposed to one or two
Right.
incidents in their life, and average 700 or 800, so we know that going into it, like this shouldn't be a shock. Like I lose my mind like when people are like, oh my god, I go, well, what the hell did you expect? You're the one who's cleaning up this shit. Like, so
Right.
we know that going into it. So why don't we do something proactively to prepare us?
Right.
Because there's no preparation, Laurel.
Well, the thing is, if you think about it, they know what they're going to see, but what they don't know is how they're going to react. That's what they didn't sign up for. They didn't sign up for the intrusive images. They didn't sign up for the sounds that make them react as if they're in the situation. They signed up to help people and clean up the mess. They didn't sign up for the other part.
Right. I agree with you 200%. But we know that. We know that. So the importance of, I think, getting ahead of it
Mhm.
and providing that education
Right.
and on the front end,
Mhm.
like this is, I never went to a class like that, Laurel.
Wow.
30 years on the job, there was never a, hey, this is what might happen when you get exposed to, like when you do CPR on a baby and it dies in your arms. This is how you might feel. These are some things you might want to talk about. This is not a good thing to put in a box and put it on a shelf. Like those conversations never happened. And i
That's
i don't
amazing.
I don't think it's I think the culture's changing.
Mhm.
I think we're getting some younger, more progressive leadership
Mhm.
in the profession where they're acknowledging, that the way we've been going about addressing trauma has been all wrong
Mhm.
because we haven't been addressing it, and
Exactly.
it ends up manifesting itself in really some destructive, life altering behavior. What
Mhm.
when you get involved with somebody, what's that look like, Laurel? Like
Okay.
somebody that's, I'm either getting referred to you because I probably don't have the awareness or the confidence, personal fortitude to actually say I need help, because
Right.
that would be amazing if I was that self-aware. So my spouse calls you and says, "My husband is out of his mind."
Yes.
Um, and so how do we structure that? How do you help me become healthy? Is that too much?
No, it's my favorite thing to do. Honest to goodness, I love those phone calls. And
Okay.
that's typically how that happens is it's the friend, the partner saying, "You're not who you used to be." And I think it's PTSD, which, no one wants to think that's what it is because they feel like if that's what it is, they no longer can do that job that they signed up for.
Right.
So there's so much we could talk about, I'm sure, with what I've heard my people say, why they won't come to me for help, why they don't want to use their insurance, why they don't want anybody knowing what they're doing, because then they, the powers that be, are going to take them off the job. And there's that whole pride piece, right? Of this is what I've done for 27 years. Why is it a problem for me all of a sudden? I get
Right.
so much of that because it's that cumulative effect of my first responders who have been holding it in, holding it in, holding it in. They did it for 20 years. They were fine. So why, Laurel, is it a problem now, right? It's they don't even know where to begin with it. So what typically happens is, yeah, at their partner's begging, they will end up in my office and I'll just start to say to them, tell me what's going on. Are you seeing things when you're not supposed to? What has changed in your behavior, right? All of kind of the trauma signs, hypervigilance, this, that, and the other. But what it really looks like is I'll say, it's not the narrative, it's not the story of that call that the problem is. The problem is that image that you can't get out of your head. The smell, the sound, right? The taste, the vision. So we figure out what that image is. And I do a therapy that takes that memory and it processes it back in your brain. So it becomes a neutral memory and it's no longer got any of that emotion or sensation attached to it, which then takes away the trigger. So then once we figure out what those one, two, or three, what typically happens is when my guys come in, it'll be three things from over 25 years or whatever that they're like, this one I still take with me.
Sure.
So one by one, we'll spend a session on each of them, pulling those out and refiling them back in their brain. And it's amazing. They can then go out and be exposed to that image, picture, sound, and literally nothing happens. They become neutralized, but they still remember the story of what happened, but they no longer see the bad, which that's huge because there's such relief. They can now drive down that road where that bad call was, right? Like the worst is when my first responders start to get triggered by the sirens. I mean, so you spend your whole day, and how could you
Like,
listen to it all these years?
yeah.
And all of a sudden now you can't. Your blood pressure is just going up by hearing that siren. That's a really bad predicament.
No, no doubt. It's so funny. So since I've been in this space, I've tried to expose myself to different theories, philosophies, methods. Um, and I partnered with some folks at a place called 22 and they're helping veterans and first responders do exactly what you just described, which is replacing the emotions that get attached to
Yes.
the memories
Mhm.
with neutral emotions like that. So
Positive even.
you don't the trigger is still going to be it's still the thing is still going to happen in the environment that, but
Mhm.
your reaction to it is
You
no
got it.
longer that whole catastrophic spiral.
Yeah.
um and
Mhm.
it takes away the pain of the emotion of remembering, but you still remember.
You remember the story, but you no
Yeah.
longer see it and you no longer feel it.
Yeah. That's amazing work. That's amazing work that you're doing. It's and this is the thing though, getting people to sit down, like everyone, I'll say everyone who sat with you and gone through that process is probably kicking themselves that they didn't do it 10, 15 years prior. Right?
You
Like,
got it.
right? I mean, it's just like I didn't realize that this is one, it was going to be relatively easy
Yes.
and
It
quick.
an hour, an
Yeah.
hour, an hour that changes their life, right? And sometimes all of it can go in an hour. Sometimes we need 1 to 4 sessions
Right.
based on how many things have happened, but in that 1 hour, they leave with such relief, and it's like this lift. They all say the same thing, "I feel so light," because it's a burden. It is such a heavy physical, emotional burden when you carry that, and then when you change the way that your brain remembers it, it's just gone, and I call it the reset. You are reset to who you were before that event happened. Now, if you had all sorts of stuff going on with yourself anyways beforehand, that's still
Right.
there. I didn't fix that.
Yeah, no, no doubt. No, it's
But
just
we
not.
fixed at least the way that you're being triggered by that specific scenario.
No, that's
Mhm.
awesome. And that's just, and that's something that's not like I had them run some things on me.
Mhm.
I had some things that needed to be cleaned up. And I was again, like when I picked up your book, I'm like, Laurel Wiers, let me see what bullshit is she peddling today? Let me look through. And I'm like, oh, this woman is dialed in and she knows exactly what she's talking about. But when I sit down, I'm the skeptic.
Sure. Well, this therapy, people are very skeptical of. I
Sure,
mean,
it
it's
sounds it sounds a little hokey, doesn't it?
like voodoo. I know when people come to me, I get called so many things. They're like, I, it's all
Oh,
referral. Like
don't
you
tell me that. They're not mean, are they, Laurel?
No, they're no, not in
Okay.
that way.
All
But
right.
they're like, "Do your voodoo on me, do that, like, magic thing that you do." They call me the hand waving queen, because I
Right.
use my hand to make people's eyes move back and forth, and people come up to me and they say, "I don't know what you do. I just know that you do something with people's eyes and you make them feel better, and I don't care what it is, but just fix me."
Right.
But yeah, but when you tell people what it's gonna be, and when you say to them, "In 1 hour, you will feel so different. You will never see that image the same ever again." They don't believe it. And which is fine because the therapy works whether they're skeptical or not.
No doubt. It does. That's the thing that I found so interesting, Laurel, is that you don't need their buy-in.
No, not at all. They just have to want to be better. As long as they're motivated, that's all I need.
Right. They don't have to be convinced of the science, the neurological pathways, they don't frontal cortex. They don't need to know any of that. They
None of
just
it.
need to follow your direction
Mhm.
and be able to put some pictures in their mind and visualize some things. And
Exactly, that's it. So
that is
simple,
that is
right?
awesome.
It's
That
so
is
simple.
awesome.
It is the thing I am so passionate about. My husband will tell you, what is the one thing you can get Laurel excited about? Is let me tell you whose life changed today. Let me tell you that person who is now the amazing policeman, fireman they were before, but even better, right? Like to give someone their life back, there's nothing better.
No, that's listen, there are a lot of things that we can do with our time here on this earth, right? I mean, it's so short. It's the older I get, the more I realize that, the sand in the hourglass is slowly like this. There's an end date to this.
I
And
know.
we don't ever think of that. And so we kind of just muddle our way through life
Mhm.
without purpose or objectives I feel bad for folks like that get caught on their heels but you're not living that life. You're living a life of purpose and passion, and you are definitely leaving this place better than when you found it. And there's something really cool about that. And thank you for being that person. That's just there's so many people that take from that well. And God damn, listen, there's not a infinite supply in that well, and you're adding to it. You're adding value to people's lives. You're adding value um in that ripple effect. Like when you help that mom or dad,
Mhm.
you just improve the quality of the life of their spouse, their kids, their coworkers. I mean, there's a far-reaching ripple effect that takes place when we get right in the head, when we can love ourselves, when we can not walk around in fear and shame and hate. And you doing that, is huge. And so, without getting real corny, thanks. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. That's
Well, thank
important.
you. But I do it for your community because I'm so thankful for what you do for us.
See how that works out?
Yeah.
That works out just fine, doesn't it?
Taking care of each other. It's how it's supposed to be.
I love it. Hey, Laurel, I could talk to you like till dinner time. and I want to be respectful of your time. If there's something that you could leave our listeners with, maybe they're on their way in to shift, maybe they're driving home, and maybe they've had one of those days, right? Or they're just their relationships aren't what they want them to be, and they're on the fence with maybe some questionable behavior, or maybe they've acknowledged that they haven't really processed things the right way. Some things they've seen and done at work. What's something that you'd like to leave them with, if
Mm.
that's not too much of an ask?
No, I would say do something different. Whatever you're doing is not making things better. So just choose to go in a different direction, one little step to go towards something different, and to not accept that this is as good as it gets and that this is the price you have to pay for whatever's happened in your life or whatever you've seen, or that you think you signed up for this. But to know that you can have it all.
I love it. I
Thank you.
love it. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Laurel Wiers, Betrayed Not Broken: From Discovery to Decision Making, Your Journey Through Infidelity. The book. It's gonna connect some dots and really put you on a positive path. And I'm gonna put all your information in the show notes. So if people want to reach out and follow you and connect and
Thank you.
be
Thank you.
you can be a part of their solution. And I think that's an awesome thing.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Laurel.
much. And thank you for having me. This was such a wonderful
Oh,
conversation.
man, I loved it. I loved it. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that